Necessary? Okay then. Namo Guru Imbe Namo Imbundaya Namo Narmaya Namo Sangaya Namo Guru Imbe Namo Imbundaya Namo Naramaya Namo Sangaya Namo Guru Imbe Namo Imbundaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sangaya Gandhi Alaji Genge Doka Rakura Chosa Ponde Choze Chige Boy Genge Losanda Seta Cheboy Nedre Shesu Tengia Nangaya Sendia Bede de Jeze Lama Gebe Zumkrai Galoyan de Bea Sanaim Chinjo Tembaye Jeche Keljaye Shoso Se Shejaye Jinki Jebe Lode Doike Saye Nave Genjo Elishe Tabe Bege Lame Jebe Kotonde Tembe Dende Lacha Ye Che Nazo Medot Reshen Dobe Naze Dishas Ngozam Yeden Cheten Jazot Naim Shincho Chelai Chebaim Ben I Dome Dene Sabai Lengai Ye Megai Chige Na Kabaya Dombaya Sunge Mete Yene Jebaya Dabe So So Yeme De Monde Doblat Chige Pombe Denjo Zimich Gomboy Gege Love Jan Zebal Tajaya Sambaya Tabe Yiram Chitze Lamaya Tambai Kenam Chige Eken Lai Jinze Jinten Daraya Tambe Dejaya Zema Lai Sabjaya Chige Charbaya Abdus Nanda Yese Yin Le Shenpai Sonjoy Kolai Chanoi Mingai Jinne Nangoy Zugoy Rabai Sede Bardoy Minoy Dembrais Naye Jinye Sabe Ingewad Tendayen Jowaye Gunlaye Gambend Gabraye Jitse Nandaye Dabai Tembe Nyemboye Rindo Sejesh Mime Zeve Deche Incheres Teme Kempe Womboy Jambe Boy Male Jomze Sanvent Yanje Gebe Soche Zonkaib Losan Tabe Shabla Sewa Mime Seven Cheres, Timmy, Kimbe, Wamboy, Jambe, Yan, Deboy, Malay, Jomze, Sanvend, Kanche, Ingebe, Zuche, Zonkai, Losayan, Dabe, Shablay, Sewayan, Mimia, Zebe, Deche, Cheres. Chimia Kimbe, one boy Jambe, the boy Malia Jomze, Sanvend, Kanjia Kimbe, Zojia, and Zonghai, Losa and Tabe, Shabla, Sewa, and Baldia and Zabe, Lama, Rimboy. Tai ye che wo be me ye den sho la ka jin ye chen bo ye ko ne ye che son de o so yan do ye ngo zho ye zhe do ye bal de yan za be ye la ma ye ren bo ye chi na ye ni ka ye be me ye den sho la non de yan chen be ye ko ne ye che son de cho da yan de mo ye ngo zho ye zhe do ye bal de yan za be la ma ye ren bo ye chi na ye ni ka ye be me ye den sho la ka zhe chen be ye ko ne ye che son de yang joy ni boy bardo uten barai shu ma sa im je me ai shera ya barich ma ye me ge ai nam ge ai ngo wen so so ya ran je ye she ye che ye de son ge ve yum la cha ze lo te ya ta ga de para sam ga de bo de so de ya ta ya ga de para sam ga de bo de so de ya ta ya ga de para sam ga de bo de so ingerian ton ta ge ju she wa da me de ne me ken da en de wa ten ba en de je ben so em so ju ta she den ja den dren de le sho sa je be je jo je me do dan re ra ble je ni de ge ba de sa je je do me de wa ye joy ge na em da shin lai jem boroi jo ye daim guru rana mendela kaneya daya amen Chödan tsoge chonam la jancho bardo dane chabzo she dagi chinjir kebe sonam ki dola penche sanje do bara esho Chödan tsoge chonam la jancho bardo dane chabzo she dagi chinjir kebe sonam ki dola penche sanje do bara esho Chödan tsoge chonam la chansho bardo dane chabsu che dagi chujre gebe sonam ke dola penche sanje do boro isho
Simje tamje to soja la na wa yang da ba zo sa ye ko wa ba je ne ga ta ba sha ti she de tambi che se nye bi ku lu sha ju su che ma su ji se da mi se ma shi
For the benefit of all the sentient beings, may I able to achieve the highest realization or enlightenment or Buddhahood. For that reason, may I able to receive these teachings. So with these, like, generate the right motivation or the highest motivation. And before we explain that, I want to go through the oral transmission for a couple of pages.
Dela gonde ni so do shere number je ra du number je gomba ti se le je de na bara jang ba me ne ba de la don de je de me yi je yi la de le xin jang je ba no la don de song be xin ne de mo do no so do be shere je gom che dang che je mo de ma ta na ti ta ra lu zi me xin de jang be go de je ba ni me ne la 신의 터는 소도의 제제공제랑 제제공제랑 게 타르 시정 제버시 되어 신의 줄게 어디 쉐버쇼 다디 스텔데시아 데레다 커서 기증이마 디섬저디 신의 마시야 야 디마시나 기자게 라도다다 디 취제트노시아 디저와시다 취지트노시티다 에네 코타잘 세이다드산라 뇨르 용게 요르 마보제보 용게 이제 셰가보다 그게 제바시가보시다야 셔더디 에네 파게지알라 강엔도 와셔디지디 그지데 도절레 미드자 어디니마 신인 고디 바시위 셔다 테리티네마 무테니시아 이스.
So the Geshe read the oral transmission from page 20, which is we are on the Serenity and Insight from page 20, from the stage of medium stage, like stages of medium stage, from there till the page 24 until this, like the last paragraph. I think it's the this will be explained below until here, which is page 24. And right now, what Geshe is trying to explain, that we are just covering on this topic on the serenity and insight. As you know, in the other topic on these, since this all the philosophical debate on this is difficult to translate, so when the Tenzin Dorjila is not here, so I try to cover the easier one, even it's difficult for me. So that's why we are continuing on this the topic of serenity and insight.
Teta jijo tang tawe shuwa soto shera je kumatona semji wa tenga de go shen de po shong le chebar de da me ve tong ne ba shu da yunro je wa ta so de shera je ne go bi ta wa le me la do me ne shen la yue che da ko ba she jang ni mo ju ru go no ba so se ji ti sa wo de ne bo me ba shen ne go mo ba me she shi ye shen ne za go me she 사다야 공고때 고는 바로발 신의 점바시 공부에 시베네 년저바나 저 리바미 봉지 레시 뉴바 나바나 잠제 세도 셰라진조 셰라진노조 메바다 팔라니에 레버라 쇼모 민주로 시 민주로 개원나 바바 공부 저거에 와라 되니라 산대 뉴모만 나바라 노노 셰라바제니 팔란리 버쳐 저버셰데 셰 까체도스 다데데레 가제 다다다 신이에다 학동 구드자레네 가르사 똑바가고 되고서 배 제야 일메시 공부를 해야죠 어디서 다 가제 도시에는 제금다 조금마데시네 에는 조금 쉬고 시대나 에는 제가 제제부터 띵인주 좀나 에는 뒤 저에 거듭 쉬고 말았어요. 보고신이 총라서나 보서는 다 거기 펜도를 쓰고로 띵인들이 그거도 접도 말이지. 제버드서 다음에 돌은 예버 슈차 윤로 제베 탑소서도 비 셰럽 제니 교회 제자알미베 하도면은 신이라 데 사도면은 신이 가지 공부 되나 내가 니모 먼저 뭐도 받을 시기를 받을지 니모 바자제가 방투고 말이셔도 인지 민지 제고 그거 말이지 어다 디네신스.
So here, like, which is explaining about like why these two, the shine or the serenity and hakthong, the insight is necessary to practice simultaneously, because just practicing serenity without insight, then it won't fulfill the the completion, like complete practice, because just by practicing on serenity, then because this won't like fully understand the true meaning of any object of meditation that you are trying to practice, it will lead you to understand fully about the any top object of meditation. So that's why it must need to go together.
Golden Parvales, Golden Parvas said, Low Kamalashi like any Hashan Zivasi, the Golden Parvas, Golden Thomas, Golden Thomas, Golden Ribasum, the body, to do the Zubeta Karsa, Tumdre with sort of the Insarwa, Zuanodi, Oti Tumdre or the Golden Parvales. She needs a Bashi Gombara Shevene, Nanjavananji, she driva me bonjis, she needs you go and job on Tomaris. Riki Numo number no some say this. In Numo Munjuata, taking the Tosona, Teshuada, Gonzi, Chinit, Moni Tosona, in it, Gonzi Deja Condolas, the Tata, Deve Deja Rabat, Condrosta, Chakdo, Nego Yungomar, Conji, Kio Marava, said but the Yoko Jane case on the Yonju the Yongora, said that the Nika Munju Gonoma Tamris. The Sheriff, you know. You remember the Palani labor show Minjuros. Said the Tiga Lagdon Mena. The sheriff said, the sheriff Jew Mori, that kind of Lagdon Zigora. Said the Shini Gon, Lagdon Goni. In the Palani, the Bongo Majid, Tim and the Bonto Maris. They no Papa Gomba, but Tinile, Sunday, new number known those. Sheriff Jenny, Palani, number no shit, she casetos. She used his shena. This were Papa Gomba, never do those Gondes, do the Gondes Yajora, what in it. Someday you move number knows. Sheriff Jenny, Palani, labor show shadow, she casetos. What it, and he never in Nego Kodong Tata. Talk Senna Sierra, the country, Tatangan. The girl even knew about Munjo, was it the negative over the court, then the power of Suzayan, Yan Sugon, Youngores. Said that the intimate Hadon Gongores. She Palaniesena could never derwa. That she needed to do the Munjo Yomer, the court never the day, because the end the tendency and Jungsho Desha in the hotel Palanies. Said the Palani the born intimate shadow goris.
So that's why, like the reason why that these two, the serenity and insight, has to practice simultaneously, because if you just practice the serenity with which lacking the insight, then even at the beginning, that it may be with the help of serenity, it may be able to overcome like anger or hatred or jealousy or all these delusions or the defilement temporarily, but it won't root it out completely, because by just practicing serenity, it will temporarily it will try to as if that there's no anger or hatred or jealousy and desire and attachment, but with the lack of the insight, then it's like a hidden under the ashes like a fire, but you don't see the fire. So this is like it will remain as like the subtle, the causes and condition will still remain there. Immediately when you stop practicing serenity, then immediately it will rise up, that the anger and hatred will again rise up. So only with the help of the serenity, it will completely root out those the anger or jealousy or desire and attachment. It will completely root out. So that's why, like even in order to practice to completely root out those defilement, we must need the serenity.
Tena dadi dishi jik me shi, tiye nyimu che yin rab chuk te, lakshuk yin tenzi gomba shi, lakshuk yin tenzi gomba shi, so di lakshuk siya de tere da kaji, dasha tamba tangwa ene pike rab du shiong ni Geshe这是lakdu的，这开始人不是长松松西多，但是南北个这开始长松是这那个我说的有嘛？我的是我的lakdu写的吧，是lakdu写的，因为电影这个希腊刚刚到这个世界我喜欢到的，刚刚到的，因为世界我一到啥呢？大家都没给他他都认为是的是。다 터져 레스타든 터야 말이스고 엔 제제네 엔 다다자 또바 엔 다디 뉴모바 강가 폰토 메자 터자 타도 레본도 선네 엔 시에네 데시에데와 카르사 로주 까와제세 곰네 셰다 곰 스타 건조 데르와 팀에 왔다나 닌데 디다다 곰네 장상게 저 로주 까와제 다 티와 셰모셰나 초 죽은 제와 또 이게 최대 뭐도 근데 사서 현대에서 보면 뒤가 개바 먹은 거는 상제 차리 뒤도 신의 방 말이지 원 그래 건자 저마다자 건지 신이 이네 로드까지 곰자 다음에 곰 인디나 상제 최대로 어디게 저래.
So that's why why this is like in order to practice to eliminate all the desire and like anger and hatred and jealousy, that you need to practice the insight. Just practicing serenity, it won't root out, or even it seems like it's like completely overcoming those defilement, but it will be remain as a small seeds hidden under. So now that's the reason that even the Buddha also before he Buddha Shakyamuni, before he achieved enlightenment, or before he entered into this 6 years of intensive meditations, like he followed one of the as a non-Buddhist practitioner, that he was guided that if you practice some 3 stages of the practice, once you reach the peak of existence, that you can completely eliminate all this desire and defilement, those like anger or hatred, jealousy, and those things. But since he eventually they realized that even by achieving the peak of existence, also there's still the defilement, and those are still that their small causes remain there. So he cannot root it out completely. So this is the reason that he has to go back to the 6 years of intensive practice to eliminate all this defilement completely. So in this, even though that in that there are many history about how that is interpreted about 6 years of meditation, according to on the hearer or the lower the vehicle, they called it in that 6 years of intensive practice that he has overcome all this defilement and then finally achieved the enlightenment or Buddhahood. But according to the Mahayana higher practice, that he has already practiced in before that, the eons of accumulating merit, and then finally that in that 6 years of extensive practice, that he just show up that if you really practice completely, then you can completely eliminate those defilements. So this is how there are different interpretation in that regards in this point.
我这觉得，这当个大75场所这能把水呢，对下工作我觉我这个可能啦呢，呢，这个东西嘛不能有我这的刚刚个好过的，因为咱对下都工作就是这个协助定嘛，当时些的，你大人家是开连着，大的没话好过嘛是吧？这好嘛，我说当时的没话嘛是不的。你没看这电呢？那个不是我弄不嘛都是电都帮他用过嘛是吧？现在其实个他们那有些这电视当面多头嘛是吧？对，但看见你们早晚的帮当面多过是吧？但其实不知道，但我们用个这个当面是开两个节用嘛的。现在但旅游店东西用个都是，那旅游被各些需要这不，看见对家都控制的这个东西节的工作好过的。现在他东西节是写的，他可是旅游用过啥别说，我听着说的，哎，看些这种情况之后，旅游没有说是他们都上去过是吧？哎，那边生鲜的东西也要说着， 어디를 시야죠. 와서 되게 이 동행 싸워도 하 먹어 인자. 이 류점 제 에디비게 겨마도 제를 싸워비게 뇌자 코도 싸워 당시세야 하 먹어 인자. 이는 어디 콘조 대바디다 놓고다 간지 뇌자도 콘조다 니모 간도 rak바도서 에는 때네 에네 가자 랑실 누구 예와당 안 디pon스 대화토고 예와도서 그 코도 강하고 나 간지 거기 디pon야 싸워다 먹어 당지디 예와 켈린자 이는 치료하게 비게 때네 뽕부도 유전도 뒤샤고 வர와 어때래.
So, because of this reason, like even like all this, the afflicted emotion, like those anger or hatred, desire or delusions, all this ego or pride or those jealousy, every schools of thought or every belief knows that, even Buddhists or non-Buddhists, or everyone knows that these are suffering and these are happiness. Everyone knows that those things, but the difference between the Buddhists and non-Buddhists is they especially non-Buddhists, they don't know that what are the afflicted emotion that if you root out, then you can be able to achieve the true happiness, and what are the defilement that give us all the sufferings. So these are the things that is like that how the Buddhists stand out from non-Buddhists, because of recognizing that these are the true causes and conditions that if you completely root it out, that will achieve peace and happiness. If you don't, then this will bring us the suffering to oneself and others. So that's why most of the like non-Buddhists, since they always we call the suffering starts, whether it's Buddhist or non-Buddhist, the suffering starts from the selfishness, that when we have the strong grasping towards selfishness, and because of that reason that the sufferings arises. So in order to overcome the true sufferings of oneself and others, first of all, we have to understand how to overcome. Only by understanding that the selflessness of person and selflessness of a phenomena, by understanding that, only then if you apply how to overcome the desire, or the root out the desire and attachment of those things, only with the help of understanding the selflessness of a person, of a phenomena, only then we can be able to understand how to eliminate. So otherwise, as long as we have that selfishness, then there will be difficult to overcome. So that's why, first of all, in order to overcome all the defilement or sufferings, first of all, we have to understand the selflessness of a person and phenomena. Only then we can apply that how to overcome.
어디에 다다다 사우저이 땡엔지 고바기 세야 디 로유도 어디게 가르땡겨 센데지 왔다 간제 다음에 마도 나나 내가 왜니모 베게 먼저 방나라 인티 펜토고 말지 디 생시도 그래 세상 사우저 세야 되는 청소 누르다 무시 톱된 게 되네 난갈 풀어야 용게 되네 시래도와 그래는 그다 제보들의 인사로 되게 에네 최동세야도 간데 다 셀 제네시네 이는 그 준주 나갈 편네 그 용어를 주셔 준주 나갈 필수연데서 에네 제보 보러 권할리다 에네 다 내내시게 표수시게 요자 제보 좀다 저기 에네 갈사 샵디지오 동세야도 가제 청소 강발에 나와도 노시 골해야죠 자갈룩스 오 텐데시다 아니 지부 주목에 아니 청송 강발 토인자 아니 거기는 되자게네 아니 무슨 냠바레스 인 두두 칼라세자도 팔로 두고 강나로레스 수유는 잔레 주주 나갈페네 용로와 팔로 두고로레스 오다 디데 거지 텔시주 로주 마지 니섬지 다직데레
Yes. So actually, before that, I missed out some of the translation. Uh, Actually, for this reason that without understanding, distinguish between the selflessness of a person, or instead of that, we have that selfishness. So because of that, sometimes like with the way we practice, it's like sometimes in order to eliminate our own defilement, instead of practicing selflessness of a person, then we start practicing about like extreme practitioner, like like not wearing clothes, or like not eating food, or living in between the fires, and those very extreme practice in order to eliminate those defilement, because since they don't really know that the true causes of those suffering, where it comes from, firstly not understanding about the selflessness of a person. Instead, that person has a like selfishness that I exist because of that reason. So now, uh, here it what it explained about the like if you don't know the true way of overcoming those defilement or those things, like those who haven't practice and achieve the the wisdom realizing the selflessness of a person, then even though they have practiced certain deep level of meditative concentration or equipoise or serenity, after achieving certain level of realization that they have that clairvoyance or their power, that they can read others' mind, they can like travel through, like fly through the sky. And that's why there's one story about one ascetic, they normally call sadhu. So when he has realized achieve a certain realization, so from his place of meditation, he flew over one of the palace or one of the palace, and where there's lots of like king and queens, and they really admire that, wow, this a great master flew over from their cave into their palace. So some of the queens, princess or queens, they were so moved by their realization, so they tried to bow down, and normally in Hindu tradition they touch their feet to respect. So while the princess, the beautiful queens and princes, when they touch this ascetic, at that moment that the desire arise, because the woman who touched their feet was so beautiful, so the desire arise. So the moment the desire arise, the realization that reduce, that what they call fade away, or we call the because of this desire. So he flew from cave, but he has to walk back to his cave because of that. So that's how it. And there are many other stories.
어디서 가지 되게 다음에 써야 되다. 지도 추루 뭐여로 추루 나로래 지 투모들이 작대도 뭐여디 다음에 써야 돼 낭밤이 수지 힘이면 와. 수지 다다 추 유대가 다음에 써 힘이 낭밤이 요마라. 어디 되게 다 낭밤 다 써야 돼요. 또 부터 무슨 당한테 키진 라송도 뭐 저디 우세 거기다 다음에 써야 돼. 라지마도 셋도니 इन हिने निमो गागा में शागरी से के जरा वो ठीक है जेदा केते छ दामे सोसो तेता खांदी गोमा केते गोमा ने तेने न्यांगे दे रिव्यू जो जिसे खांगे सेवा जर्मी खासे सेवा जुगे खांगे जुशिन तेने सेवा जुशिन खांगे तेने हिमें जुस वो तेरे खांजे ता 탈바다 탑제셔버 토야 탑들이야 다음에도 셔 주오레스 다음에도 셔르메나 에네 베고시도 나가 플레 살지야 가제지 또 봐요나 에네 타바토가 요 말이시 보다 거기
So, so this is the reason that uh, like um, what do you call that? The wisdom realizing selflessness of a person or phenomenon. This kind of practice, or can be found only in Buddhist, even though there's countless believer or religion of believer, but only in Buddhists you will find that about the selflessness of a person or selflessness of a phenomena. All other belief, they always have that self, I, or self, or me. Only in Buddhists that it will stand out from those things. So this is the reason that in order to overcome the defilement or delusions or root out these root of samsara, only with the help of understanding clearly about the selflessness of a person or the phenomena, with the help of we got the wisdom realizing selflessness. Only with this wisdom that one can be able to eliminate the root of samsara. Otherwise, no other can be able to overcome. So this kind of things only you can find in the Buddhist. Even in Buddhist schools of thought also, there are many schools of thought. Only in the highest form of Buddhist schools of thought that you will find the true explanation of this part.
What is it? Ta changju sembe denu le jang sa de, changju sembe denu le song xia se de, kanda changju sembe denu ji xue yi nam ran de te, kasa xue yi nam ran de te, pa bi xue do, ma de be ding yi zang ji, jo ba, sho ban ze ba na, sho ban ze ba ta ba ne nga ji yi ang ge, ngom be nga ji long xin si, jiwa de gawa na wa, jiwa de ngom de shu de nga yi me da, me zhu, zhuwa choki, kwa le me zhu, na kasa, dungyen yi pungbo, le ji yong su me zhu de, tela goni ti shi ba, di ge ji, che, xin le ji su tuen ba, che ba ni gashi le chuan ju ro, xie ka che de, xie song so sa, ka ji de da, dang me ma do na, ide te rewa, na wa de gawa, che ka na ji da, ine, karsa, mendo to ba de ba ze ma do se, kanshi dungyen na shi kanga, dungyen kanga do to wa yo ma re, ko dang si de ye xin xe le. Zhuwa zhugu kwa le yong su me zhu si, ine, porque tui li zang je to ma re si, me do, kwa le yong su, me re, ta ra zang to ma re si. Dungyen yi pongpo le yong su me zhu si, ta dungyen pongpo te le chue to ma re si. Xe da te le go na, ine dangme ma zo ba zhuwa yo me re, dangme te la ine, daga se tengen chigi, xine gang le, ine dangme zo lakdong se ya di me ne, nimo pong to ma re ba. O si tile song kya si, kaji dangme ma do na, kwa le chue yo ma re, je ka na si dungyen le chue yo ma re, kanga ya chue to ma re si. O di song kya si wa re.
So that's why it says that without realizing the selflessness of a person, then there's no way to overcome from the cyclic existence of samsara. Even it says that without realizing the selflessness of a person, we cannot overcome the birth, aging, sickness, and death, or from the cyclic existence of samsara. Even also says that without realizing the selflessness of a person, we cannot overcome the heap of suffering. So so this is the reason that firstly that we have to practice with serenity inside, because without these two, there's no way to realize and understand the selflessness of a person, or without serenity or insight, there's no way to achieve this wisdom realizing selflessness. So this is the reason these two are very important.
This is tell going to go but she got this. You this is the ocean so the Davina Dribata da Bonuzo, Tabi, she joined David, she never Nene, she had a gomba shows to get the Papa Gunjo Chile Chanka Zede. Suddenly, ding is gone there, ding is the Tony Shera Gomba Sha, Shera Gini, he number tower, top, he number tabi, Sudden Puzzle so she got those. With even that, Tashida says a Judita Dami Madonna, any Dumeda, any Guba, call him treat middle in 용 사바 이시군 조안데 베스다 디레 인 둥에다 데바 민두 강가야 땐 페판타야 기 티레 뉘드나 인 신이 롬네 인 신이 은 학동 조고 그레스 녀디 조고 그레스 어디도 가서 되게 더 파바 군조 띵지가 제세 저다 신이 은 학동 조고 세야 되다 데세 이는 되게 티레 강제 학동세 돈이 셰랍디 인 그게 가서 다른 쇠춘이 세워라지도 힘들지고나 어디 저거다 신내대 때도 거다 다른야 힘이 중요한 거죠 어디 뽕받이 쇠sun 거를 쓰거지 제가 힘줘를 비게 다른 노버지세 인중에 메디를 비게 라바 셴보지 딱딱 그런 로데지 그거로 어디 메네 이 야시 마시시드는 제도야 말아서 당시도 ini lakdong kono sherab di tongyu gomba zamji ko karsa nyungu po to maraba tongyu gomba le yu ringbo ne go da kanji sheda ba ne nu ba goyal ni inji mi yu ringbo ne yal hine de go wa ta yu ringbo ne so na ini o nyumu zawa je bang to wa o de hine de me yu ringbo ne chuk chuk dame da sheda chuk chuk gomne to do shena ini ko karsa nyumu zawa bang to de yungo maraba timba 심비게 율 네베 차디 히네기 시고 어디 거자 인 히네 이미지 고야 테레스 티야 다 신경이 뽕받다부터 있으거다 더 시뽕바야 보이나 락자지에면 고신지다 말바 무조시는 뭐 어제디 셰랍디 다 따르다부터 있어 어디 다 코니 뽕받던 것이 엔다레 노브에는 코니 초소는 애니 가리나 가리 생제나 가리는 거가 그게 공효 용거로 어디 인식을 가지 신이 고야 되더라 사돈 주고 지금 말이 신이 인식이 고래서도
Yes. So this is a reason like why this serenity and insight is very necessary in order to root out all the afflictions. Like for example, like if we cannot realize the selflessness of a person, then there's no way to overcome any understand about how to overcome and root out the sufferings. So for that reason, like in order to achieve, firstly we have to understand and realize the selflessness of a person through practicing through the serenity. With the help of serenity, then to stable on that object of meditation, you need the insight. So sometimes they call these two are the serenity is like a shoulder, like the stable, strong shoulder, and then the insight is like an axe, a sharp axe. So even if you have a sharp axe, if you don't have the strong shoulder to hold and hit into the right wood, then it will be everywhere. So that's why it needs a stable shoulder, means the serenity. And with the help of sharp axe like the insight, then you hit the target to cut the wood or cut the root of the afflicted emotion. So and this is the reason that even that you have a sharp, like the strong serenity, but if you don't have the continuity of the insight, then it won't cut, because it will be like it won't be stable. So you need like stable insight to root out, because just you practice a little bit on the to overcome the selflessness of a person just for a moment, and then you move on in different topic, then you cannot cut down or root it out that the selfishness of a person. So that's why that you need the continuity to focus into the and until you achieve the selflessness of a person. So that's why only with the help of the sharp what they call this, the serenity, strong serenity, and continuously practicing on insight, then you can be able to root out the afflicted emotion. So that's why it needs both combination of both, and for the longer period of time, only then you can understand and realize the selflessness of a person. Then the moment you realize, then it can be able to root out those mental afflictions.
어디에 가니 단에 들에도 군조 즉바 바바 군조 저한테 최종을 내내 띵이다 띵이지 톱니 제셔라고 뭐 셔라 이니 이제 나부터 톱시 나부터 최종 분소 시기까지도 그 거기 너디나 이니 신의 톱을 신의 로발 최종 구어와 최종 맞으나 신의 톱이야 말와 데 룽아 비게 영어라 바시야 더다 라다 소다 세름 소시다 지런 세름 차라 뭐지 거기 세름 무슨 맞으나 에네 신인 좋아요 신인 좋아하면 사동 좋아요 말아 시다 뒤에다 타바토 고시젤라 다 상계 공한테 파쇼 에네 라바송이 냐면 그게 그래서 송지면은 에네 그냥 톱 좋아요 말아 시다 뒤에다 다 뒤지고리 아까 땡이도 땡이제는 가르사 셰랍스터 셰랍게니 이제 나봤다 또 이제 나봤다 지금 무슨 소다 에네 이제 나봤다 톱서도 지금 무슨 소 봤어야 되다 공부도 저하게 좀 살도게 좀 말아 드니야 공부도 전에는 라와섬도 공부도 전에 에네 니모방네 에네 그게 가르사 타바도 고러와 어디에 디제시티가 제샤스 건지 거기 럼라와서 냠len스기도 다 dinzo pöba pögel pöl ene tagum jiosum sedo 간데 찍바다 간지 대성디야 카테는 인 펜도야 말아 냠도 군성고
So for that reason, before, like in order to achieve the practice serenity, firstly, of course, we need morality. Without having a proper morality, then there's no way to practice serenity. So, and then follow with these, then with these proper morality, then you have to practice insight or insight. Only with these step by step that one can be able to achieve the serenity and insight. So for that we need a proper morality and so on. So sometimes they call in Tibet. Sometimes we call we need to have a proper before we engage into serenity and insight. We need a proper view. And then after that we need a proper meditation or concentrations, and then proper actions or those things. Without having this proper view, proper meditation and proper action, so there's no way to practice serenity and insight. So prior to that, one must have those morality, then proper view, proper proper view, proper meditation, and proper the actions.
다 파바 티바체 뭐 대박고면 돌래 지르이 비셰르 뇨메나 현실스만 나지 티바체 뭐 대바 티바체 뭐라 시더양 요메모 시 가제도 예승부 지르서 데레도 커서 파바 대바 고면 도세야 되라 레기 폴리스 셰르 뇨메는 세르와 현실스바 티바체 뭐라 대바 티바체 뭐 la cheta jo ngame mo sta ini toni do khaje dame to ma do na shangju sen kya de na tine ya lam jwe ni ya tiwa shin bo ene to ba zo ne ro to mo se da khaje tire.
So and it even says that those who haven't achieved the serenity inside, even that one may be considered as a bodhisattva also, since you haven't achieved the insight, or those who have, then you won't achieve any higher realization. So even you may be cultivating like a wisdom, practicing like bodhicitta, or they call, even without realizing the insight and insight and serenity, then you cannot achieve the higher realization of Mahayana. Also, you can call real, knew the real nature of Mahayana.
다 그런 게 있어. 다 데려 가는 게 인디미디 힘에 들고 힘에 들어서는 뭐 라돈 조jo 말서 어디 그런 게 가지다디 그런 게 있으니 조조를 힘에라데 라돈기 니문 넘버 줘 봐. 시신이 통마 힘에 대해서 해서 받다 오늘 힘이 drone 때는 될때 라돈 공고 봐 이노스 인지면 마두질이 실랑이 비게 다 놀르시나 실랑이 뒤지도 토야는데 요뭐 인지면이 힘내고 그 얘는 힘내 톱서나 얘는 힘을 하던 공부레스 어디 그런 게 와서 되래.
So now, so this earlier that which is all which it says that in Sutra of Cultivating Faith in the Mahayana says that a child of good lineage, if you did not have wisdom, you would not say that you had faith in Mahayana of Bodhisattvas, nor you would say you knew the real nature of Mahayana. So this is what like without having the insight or serenity and insight, then so now the number which is the page 23 on the how to be certain about the orders. So sometimes they often call that it's not necessary that you have to practice so first serenity and then follow by insight. You can practice together to achieve realization. So that's why it says that it needs an order prior to practicing insight, that you have to practice serenity first. So this is going to explain here.
어디 그런 게 와서야 돼. 간제 데려다 냠들인데 걸음새야 돼. 얘가 인지문이 그 가서 내가 전부 시작을 가르쳐나 걸음 그 림바디 응어망어마다 주마주마서 늘 마디나데 에네 그 고모르비나 제가 니가 용도와 말이야. 그래서 진짜 디스고 가서 디스고로와 답변은 신내마도 그 저기 신내 라동 냠돌이야 곰디나 ene ko khadi ene hine thoya ya ma lakdong thoya ma kha thoya khade gomna la ene thoya ya ma ro ta del nge hine de gom ene de lakdong dun le la bo shene ene shira ning ga thop to ro wa ba ta na di nyamle ganga di khorun se ya di nyamle ganga ji war da khanje pige da ro changju kharsa nyeju samba de changju sem do de me wa she ene sanga la mi de ba on she ni ji zo gom ni do ga shi se da 지금까지 들었어요, 말아. 제가 림바도 드니야 마드나나 에네 그래서 첨자자니 비샤포르나 이데 잔라야 말아. 그래서 이 코르무세야 돼 시다 냠스 렌즈디 인지 문지 오다 색셔부지고 다 간지 빼는 데다 간지 남지다 간지 셰다지나 너도 인주 삼바세야지 시어 인지 셰보도 샴바세야 시기도 와. 제가 인주 삼바세야도 소소 거의 동을 참지티 telling 예바진 인주 삼바시. 다 소소 빼시네 심지 현달 비게 동에 제하게 데바텔 샴바디 인지 와. 제디 검도 소소를 비게 그래서 거의 동에서 삼두달라 에네 현안징나서 제 민도 잔데 메와시. 에네 진짜 지금 삼무나래 에네 심지 현달 닝제다 샴바 검비에서나 어디다 그 예모셔가지고 뭐 용사요 말했어. 그래와 대세도 제르무지 대송어다. 그 엄마 공부를 송도. 런던 사만나 파비 연구소에 메와 현발 닝제시 보고 봐는 레탕고 봐 용사 메시라다. 강지 인중 삼바세야 돼. 로 땡을 사는 인중 삼바세. 디 주제디 동에디게 현다 제야 삼바다는 닝제래 보러. 제도 동보 수들 전부 소득 거와 참지 등에 짜는 상소마다 셰셰 이는 심지어 현다 등에 대학 상도 한 군데 어디 인식이야 말아 어디지 말이야 가지.
So like in order to practice the serenity and insight, it needs an order, because without having order, then we may not be achieve anything, or we may not practice both, or we may lose the meaning of both the serenity and insight. So that's why to practice the serenity and insight, it needs a proper order. And not only in serenity and insight, actually in every practice also, it must need an order. If there's no order in your practice, then you may not achieve anything at the end. So that's why must need an order. So that's why in regards of serenity and insight, that firstly you have to practice serenity and followed by then you practice insight. So as like even in order to practice for realization or enlightenment, or to benefit others, sentient beings. Firstly, you have to practice renunciations, and then after that, then you practice bodhicitta and so on. So, like instead of like even that one may have a practice like highest practice, then without having a proper renunciation, like it's like we're jumping from one place to another. So by jumping, then we are missing out the big part of your own practice. So this is the reason, like we call the uh, practicing on love and compassion for the welfare of all the sentient beings. So in order to practice, prior to that, firstly, if there's no fear of being born into unfortunate rebirth and suffering and so on within yourself, then how can you have that love and compassion towards others? That's why, firstly, that you have to see the purpose having renunciation is that what if that if I'm born into that unfortunate rebirth, that I have to go through all these sufferings and unwanted sufferings. So this is why the moment that when you have that fear of if I'm born into that unfortunate rebirth, then so as all the sentient beings, if they are born into that unfortunate rebirth, the same suffering will go on. So only with the help of understanding the fear within ourselves, that if I'm born into that, then if you practice the true love and compassion for the welfare of all the sentient beings, then it's a meaningful way, it's a proper way to practice. Otherwise, if you're jumping from one to like from state away to the higher, then there's never going to practice properly. Even that before you pile up the foundation and try to make a roof or something, then it's not going to make a building or a house. So you need a proper foundation with proper bricks, pile after pile, and then you finally create the house. So this is the reason that to benefit other sentient beings, firstly, that you must have that fear of yourself. If we are born into that unfortunate rebirth, only then one can be able to practice love and compassion for others, or practice bodhicitta.
다 텔은 디냐도 고는 담볼레스 티 미빠니 바메데 시 시네지 미빠니 바메 나셰 바타 시네지 미 에 미바 쉐도 쉐니 예베 담보 다메베 통코와 시네 테니 텔메드 고메 심진 심신데 미 시네도 동일 미 다동이 뒤지리 제와 초모 지시 시네 에 지시 뭐 시네这个现在是他的投入了，就的找我他这里，他在忙我或者今天和我了的人的，现在这时候他现在没管开张拉萨了，去开始从那这个的是，你现在你他的把那当面这位那把那俺也让心没话应该没去我现在。去现在去应该开始应该没有学过是吧？这他们呢，让心嘛到东西到。东西到啥子？你现在找现在的老东娘都找你，你这就偷摸的呗。你看着，俺现在公公也看着，是哪时候的，是吧？我的听我时候的。
So that's why, like, there's some question about like why it is necessary to practice both, like like one after another. First serenity, then insight. Secondly, why? Because there are because most of the practitioners sometimes we get confused in this topic that most of that non-Buddhists, even Buddhists also, we get confused in this topic that why it is necessary to practice, because there are you can practice firstly the like the selflessness of a person, or selflessness of a person, or practice on self, or anything, that you don't have to go through serenity. You can go straight away into the insight and then achieve emptiness or self of person, or selflessness of a person. So you don't have to go through that sequence. So it's not necessary. So why it is necessary? So that's why the question is raised here.
어디 다디 도주들 다디 태와디 렌티 도 거래서나 이제 됐어다 신일 지금 도는 다음에 또 따와 고아께와 신행은 로고 말이 어디래 다음에 고아 더 신의 매와 아니 따와디 껴 통해서 신의 도고 말와 다음에 또 어디 제바sem에도 되선 드디 신의 요 말와 그래서 또 말이지 따와디 인주 용화께와라양 신행은 로무고 됐어 신의 매장소도 셔라 양아 제공시발리 이주의 인주와 저 민교 시로 셔데스 어디다 이게 흉셔다 세워다 거기 로디 컴반도신 담에 또 직도서 있는 양양kom나 로디 흉셔도로 어디 디데 흉셔도를 셔보 ngong게야 저래 이니 이용하세요로 어텔라 이니 신이 고 말이시 고 말이 다 계제 이네 디데 담에 또야다 이네 딜라야 인지 용하게야도 이네 신의 톱고 얘는 이네 메다바 또야다 이네 정신심지야서 드서 강가래 이네 배 신의 톱고 그래서 이네 하정 좀 타그래서 제르버 되시거리 얘는 메다바도 그의 님 정신심지라 이제 용하게 신의 라라려와 하정태와 조대세 조제고는 송비 셔로스 근데 제가 인주를 용하세요 제가 애니 가르사 근데 신의 라동에는 다 될야 이니야 되시거다 용화 통세야 되게 세들래봐 용화서는 nenjor세야 되다 곰자네 애니 곰 담담 차기를 샤니 인데 딱다 세롱서는 애니 될다 가르사 용화 통세야 찍어요 다때 매버신 용화도 인줄 용화세야 돼 그런 유저망고 상모당 시대에 애니 강가 쇼게야 주네 될 인줄 용화 통세어로 셰도 담에도 벌이야 이지미지 신이 들고 말이스 그는 담에도 야돼 메다도 야시 애니 상주섬 공야도 강가 제군 건데 공야 찍바라와 찍바이네 애니 인수사바제나 신이 도고야 좀 상주섬제나 신이 도고 말이 고 말, 두강가 고 말이스 셰도 돈유도 벌 이지미지 신이 고 말이스 어디서 다는 신행원도 저거 가래서는데 학동 타발이 신행원 저거서 돈유도 학동 타발라 돈유도 신행원도 저거서 어디서 왔다 더다도 되래.
So the answer to this question is like, in order to know or to understand about the meaning of impermanent or selflessness, you don't need to go through this sequence, or like serenity first and then insight second. You don't need, even with the help of like just practicing the insight also, you can know that, you can understand. So you don't need that sequence. Even like in order to practice impermanent also, like yes, there are like you can practice just serenity or just insight, that you can be able to understand and even practice about selflessness of a person, or the person also. You don't need to go through this sequence. You can practice insight, and then you can even without having serenity, you don't need this sequence. So in order to even to have the experience about those impermanent or selflessness also, you don't need this sequence about serenity first and insight second. Like you don't need this sequence. The whole purpose why this is explained about why it needs that serenity first and then second, the insight is in order to realize the serenity. then you must need the serenity. Without having the serenity, there's no way to practice the insight. So this is what that you need. But to practice on any object, on impermanent or selflessness or any other things, you don't need even that you may gain some experience on the knowledge also. It's not necessary. But right now, the whole purpose why we need this first serenity before you practice insight is to realize inside that you need serenity.
Daddy using Karin that Gondini. So the Vishera Namajiva, Namajiva, Gomba Tiziti, Lucid Jambas, Kiva Menu Tiziti, Laudon the Jutuma Inla. Tell Shinjan Java, Laudon the song base, Shine Madonna, so the Vishera Jigunzanji, Chesum Chiang said, T tar, Lucian the Jambi, Gateja Menu La. Shine Towne, so the Vishera Jigun Chiang, and tar. I Hijaja was here. Hini Jurgodi, or the Shever Shawata, Hini Jurgodi, still that to Carresa. There go near the song just. So the Hirajeva Kazi, Yul Jeva, Tony Gobaina, and the third de in the Luzun Shinjan Sayadi. Luzun Laser on Sayajora, Ganji, several big Kangim Mewa. In the Lula be Nimanga, Gonja Togo Denanda, Kadesina Lul Pig Kangim Mewa. Kaji listen laser no Shinjan Sayajiro. What the Shinja de Mazimba in the Diladon Rigumars song Jasi. So the Shinja de Simba in the Hine town, in the Jegushin, in the Shinjan Sayad, the Toya Mother, Shinemado on the Jegushin, Shinjan Sayad, the Toya Maris. What the Meza in the Ladon Tower, Hinem the dogs, Geshe Teres. Zeba the Tony Tower, Hinem dogs, and the Geshe Maris, the what is what.
So here that the reason why that in order to practice insight, must have prior to that have to practice serenity, is because in order to before we practice the insight, by engaging into serenity, then once you generate the mental and physical pliancy, then right after when we achieve the mental and physical pliancy or mental calmness or physical calmness, then that right at that moment that you achieve the insight, because this is the reason that in order to practice impermanent or selflessness, that you can practice without depending on the serenity. You can practice that, even though you may be able to achieve that, but there's no the mental and physical pliancy that you can be able to achieve by just practicing. So this is the reason that prior to practicing insight, that the serenity has to come first, because only with these that firstly you gain mental and physical pliancy, then you you can be able to achieve insight. So this is what it is written in the text.
Rimati dogo the whole shaking water. Tino so the Sheraji Mibaji la Mashapar, Chebeto, Shinjang, Jenuba, Lockdown to Joy. You talk about Yel Megan, Semi Bajela, Shab on Shinjang Jevani, Shine. Rule the Mende, did something not about Minju, the Jody did an Tongboro da maybe Coate, tea, Tony, Javashin, Woundy, Shine, Mandroba, Teladeni, Shine drivers, Missila. Mujoban Jogun, Shine, Teladeni, Shine drop young, Shine Doja, Shine Gumzule, Madobe, Loudon using maybe, Chine, Loudon Zegovis. 신의 문도 째네 텔라데네 사동군비 림발레 만데비체 대단한 학동 제베 쓰는 소소도 비제금지 신장 제와 시나 제발이 메시나 신의 문도 째네 텔라데네 사동군비 제대 야 정세자메라 스테르다 신장세야 되게 심을 가져다 학동다 신의 가래나 무슨 신장세야 돼 신장세야 또 뭐라 어디 또그상 다 미발은 저부터 이제 그게 신장 제외는 되는 신의 군주들마다 되나 사동요 말이지 어디 다 맞아요 전에는 신의 미발 세 마샤오시네 제와 코는 신의 덕신의 신장 토가요 말이지 신행을 마도나 어디 매다 사동 두야 신장들 로스 고고도 하시 때마다 미발은 저바지고 신장이는 이니 신의 사동이 두두지 거래요 거라 미발 샤브도 토야지 거라 신의들 조 지다들 제금 조금 빼마시고 레디시나 신의들 조에는 조금이 있어거라 미국 샤브도 학동한테 조금은 여대여지 조 제바시도 또 얘는 신장 당부서도 어시대 뒤 제바디 애들 매브제도 우스스 어때 매브에는 가르사 이 신의 통 학동 공사야 돼 유전자는 스티 유전 테레서 거다.
So the reason why these two is you have to practice one after another, the serenity first and then insight, and then followed by the serenity, is because only with the help of the serenity that one will when we achieve the mental and physical pliancy, then that very moment that you can be able to achieve the practice insight, even though that these two serenity and insight you can practice as a lotus form, like we call the sometimes you practice serenity, then insight, you mix together and you can practice. But in overall, there are you can focus into one object of meditation like impermanent or selflessness, and you can just practice insight also. But with these practice, that you won't be able to achieve the mental and physical pliancy without using the serenity. This is the whole reason that even that you mix together, you practice sometimes serenity first or sometimes insight first, you can mix together, but only with the help of practicing serenity, then you will achieve the mental and physical pliancy, not by practicing insight. So this is the reason that the serenity has to be practiced prior to insight.
신의랍 대세인데 키라고 검세죠. 어디로? 에는 고른 손도스도 고른 받다 숨시. 이시 잡아서 야가케 와이래도 신드 빠시. 되는 용원이 신의제 나도 검 송비시로. 어제다 케바비 세네도 뒤에 가가다 에는 대한 찍기게 에는 신의 원이라고 송신도스. 너희다야 야가 가시지 요임으로. 송장사 garsa 송베시로 대단한 야가와 로카지 힘이 소드 메조와 당번의 소드 쉐라지 제발 나도 제발 쉐와니 힘다 저는지 쇼는 게 라든데만 이대로 이대베 니 eso 메롱오사 티레다 시당가 고분데서 선데레스 얘는 시지로 야가는 다 부엘데 예와 타셔 자가 키워주나래 인 라동일 조디 디레 희능은 도무고 라동도야 시샤시는데 네 로든 데만한지 이데메는 것이 로다 남지 그게 실라니 곰도 도단도를 제바시니 소소 남지 또 샤르기 디레 용신을 잡면서 디레 에네 Karza, Yiman, Namin Jetongi, anything so a lot of devastation. Chidita, anything there, she didn't want the Roman go say a deal, any Denver, she yo maris, he did, he just yo maris. She never had no corruption, Tongbur Sadi Shibi, Sadi Jave say to the Shige. She never loved no governor, she knew Gomba Shiva, Korung Yava made Osa. No, dear, that she lost some little sana. In the Koruska Yamar, Yel, the Jacob Young Chenel Pan, Jogum Chena Digori, Yel Jogum Young Jacob, she called Yavaka Yamarava, said the race. Tada the Hile, Shila, Korum Tigare, Tongbut Dubetse, Hila Sundri Mother Body, any Shine Labon in the Kormius, intimating Yel, Shine Gongures. Tashila Sundri Tausana, any young Tango Shine Gom, young teachers, Lakbon Gomna, they could chase Gayamar, Dagaji. 네가 송주탑사다 이거 가르고는 디고와 어디서 왔다.
So that's what the why this the in order to practice serenity and insight, that first you have to practice serenity, then after that the insight. So even here, that's why in the middle of this page 25, that all he in the Je Rinpoche has already explained that the proof and evidence that all the great master like Asanga's Bodhisattva level also explain, and then Shravakas like Bhumis levels of Bhumis also indicate that, and then Baba Viveka's hearts of the middle way also explain that. Shantidevas engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds also explain the same way, and Kamala Shila's 3 stages of the meditation, and then like Jana Kirti and the Radna Kara Santi also. So all that they have a same view on practicing, that these must go sequence, like for serenity, and then after that the insight. So that's why like these are like the most reliable the texts that based on that, and the Je Rinpoche is explaining. Even though now that some of the Indian master that explain that sometimes you don't need to practice this sequence, that there are like you can practice serenity inside first without relying on those things. There are like there who explain, and it's not only in Indian master or Indian, there are Tibetan also, few Tibetan Buddhist master also, there are some who claims about that you don't have to practice this sequence, but you should not fall into that belief. So that's why you have to try to stick into the most reliable text, which is how that it is explained. So now, even that this is explained in the explain that serenity must practice prior to insight. This is explained in order to achieve any realization on any object of meditation at the beginning, that when you are practicing at the very beginning to achieve realization, you need that sequence. But once you achieve the emptiness of a phenomena, or selflessness of a person or phenomena, once you achieve, then you don't need that sequence. You can practice insight first, and then after the serenity, you don't need that sequence. This is only at the beginning, when you want to achieve a realization on any object of meditation at the very beginning, then you need that sequence. But once you achieve on any object of meditation, any realization, then you don't need that sequence. So I want to stop here. If you have any question, please.
It was said that this is another point, that you can practice insight before serenity, although you're not going to achieve realization.
Yeah. Okay.
See, the problem is that in our tests, it's, the
specifically says you cannot.
Specific.
Possibility.
Oh, really?
Possibility, yes.
Okay.
So you cannot really, because the definition of insight here is given as discriminating wisdom which induces pliancy.
Fluency.
So,
Okay.
so
Okay, I got it. So I hope so. I got it.
clarify, insight is
Yes.
not the same as discriminating wisdom.
Okay.
You can practice discriminating wisdom, but not insight.
Okay.
Insight of necessity. It's not a recommendation. By definition, it follows.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I understand. The Quran ki dua di danda ani shine lakton segin di the gomken yore che ine lakton segin danda ko she di the shine magong gon lakton gomken yore segin di lakton member the sherab gi keber du ji sherab gombe yore mato lakton gombe iju mare che gansan lakton gombala nyebar du ani karsa lisim 신장 토바 증언다 도고래 지디네 랍샤치 디 제전 디기 다 단다 학동 곰디 곰킹엘로 곰 예서 말해서이디 학동 단다디 학동 랑이디 다 셰랍 케버도 지웨 다 셰랍도 지디 곰뱅엘로 마도 학동 인사 말해서이디
간데지 락도 공부라
다 코이나 학동 곰킹 예서 말해서 간산 간산 우디 단다 배절 학동 다 신의 마곰을 하던 공회 열에지 송송하게 어디 뒤에서 말해서 간설 하던 공발 인지면지 더 리심 신장 토벌 리신 신장 토벌 신의 등을 도거하게 그래서 날 하던 라겐디 다다 셰랍기 케버도 지베지 인지 셰랍지 질라게 서레스 이나식도 가리나
데데 세고 말 주다 너무 진짜 되세요 왔다 신랑이 이 그런 예자 이게 신의 공된 락도 공을 나서러 와 신나 자로들이 가지 공 멀신 도서 어디 나르면서 롱들이야 수어물다 진짜 되셔
actually what Geshe is saying is, according to based on our the schools of thought in this topic, it's already clearly explained that you have to go serenity first and then after that insight. That is that's already given all the name of all the great master, right? So, but there are non-Buddhists, they can call as a serenity also, or the discriminating wisdom also, they can practice, there are. But in Buddhist, in these schools of thought right now, it's already explained that prior to serenity, you had to practice, insight, you had to practice serenity first. It's already based on that.
Well, okay, to put it differently, what I'm saying, according to the text, it says that you cannot practice insight before serenity. You cannot, by definition. Because insight is not the same according to the text. Let me quote here. It says here on page 24.
Okay, yes. Let me see. Page 24.
Yeah, the bottom paragraph. It says, discerning wisdom becomes insight when, without focusing on a single object, it can generate pliancy through the power of analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the discerning wisdom and insight are two different things. You can practice discerning wisdom before you have serenity, but you cannot, by definition, practice insight before that, because insight has to induce pliancy, and pliancy is possible only if you have serenity already.
The code dina danda kansana dilaido danda the hakto make ngala da sherab the keber the chiwe ani the sherab chiorala the sherab the garage ni kali chene nyamne chedi ani khol hakto chagi oroke o di da ko sherab di mato di ngela da ko sherab mago hakto magomba shine magomba hakto gomechi yesa mare sigde nangba ine the pena sherab the chebege the sherab the gome yona ta the kasalo de hakton magome ngala sherab gi shine hakton ke yoroge jeson koina ta hakton gomal injimin shine di gomba ngolo dogo yesare kan shine magomal hakton chibu che doe nangba ina go doe yesa mare sa di kan sa di chegi da ko
ale this is da 제가 랑동세 저 형시지 자신 신데서 제바시 셔라 제바시 강가 랑동 군데시 심 저야 강가를 신이 생도와
No, no.
Did Darang and Shak do your
Really,
but
like-
yet the Ladon Marwa, for Ladon Mingdera. Tanda Ladon one is the Garson said that Darang in this way. She never told Mato, did I any Ladon gum drop to my days.
No, no. In
What is it? Tangichi Kaji shares or Karsa.
Mal pemar goma
Tango
sila
Tony Tony does a design, Tony does a design. To tell Tony Church, she didn't have a Tony Main. In it, Hinada, Hined Ladoni, Yamdo Gumshan, and Tata Yamdo Tower Vasilana. Or did I? She the top Tomer Tangitarwa. That the Yao Jigorsi, but did they show her? Tony does any code. Hine mi karsin diwarwa hine mi tongyi sha in kwat hine drop la dong de nyamdo drop din hila nyamdo thori sin de yesara wa this mi rongu la de yomara
So actually, right now, the insight and serenity and insight in general, when they explain, one is called the meditative equipoise, right? You post meditation. Like serenity is like a post meditation. You still your mind into the object of meditation and stay there. In general, that's how the serenity is. And then insight is your analytical meditation. In general, that's how the definition of this serenity and insight is. So according to this point, you can call as a serenity when you are analyzing into the object of meditation. That is insight meditation. So you can call like discerning wisdom also at insight also. So that you can call that one. But when you come to the real meaning of insight, then prior to that you have to practice serenity. There's no way. But when you are analyzing before you practice, that's why you can practice as a lotus position, the practice. You can mix together, so before you achieve. But if you seriously want to achieve, then you have to go through that, because without having mental and physical pliancy, there's no way to achieve insight. So that's why. But at the beginning, you can analyze. So this is why non-Buddhists also, even proving that you had to go this way, but non-Buddhists or the great Indian masters, some of them, they say that by practicing on insight, on object of meditation, and achieving emptiness on any object, and then you can apply it together, and then what's the problem? That's what they try to prove that, but it doesn't work if you want to really practice seriously. So this.
You just mentioned post-meditation. You call it serenity post-meditation.
Yeah, serenity post-meditation.
I'm not sure about the terminology.
I don't know.
Post-meditation means you don't meditate.
Equipoise or meditative equipoise, like
Post-meditation means you don't meditate.
I don't- I see.
So serenity cannot be
to jugom kaza chegom jugom singin di pha sem chil chechil sha ne dine sha dir agi.
are
So it's like a equipoise, like you stay still your mind into the object of meditation.
It's a translation problem.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Equipoise.
Serenity post-meditation. Post-meditation means you don't meditate.
I see.
So serenity is meditation. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's an equipoise then.
Okay,
Equipoise. Yeah, I have, my English is very limited, that's why. Yes.
Good morning, Geshe. Geshe-la, the question I have is, my understanding, it's through serenity that allows me to calm my mind and allow me to understand and have insight. Because until I have serenity, my mind is filled with all the things that are going on, keeping me from having the calmness of mind to understand and have the true insight. And it's only at that point then can I understand enlightenment or attain a higher understanding. Is that I'm just wanting to make sure through all this, that I understand the concept.
Okay. Quran na the shine segindi the Quran is the gojula dene pena sem balhele sha ne ane Quran gi sem de pena shibu nyo de tuk de ro shibu chi ane shine gom de sem lele chi sha ane che chi tu sha che ane dene chi da ko dene druba chi nye yo ra da chi da chi thoba chi yo ra da ko ka lo war da dine chi nyamnyong chi sa chi yor wa
네.
o de dine shine lakdong chi gome rewe sa de kansena dando sem shibu tuk dio ro ene shine gi sem lele cha de dine rewe do chi rewe sa kanne ina si
알다 신내셔야지.
da sem bi shibu ji tuk di bal ko gom chena
어디
sem lele da chi shibshi shiwa shibu cha do ro gi
어디
ane o de shine
다 그런 학동 톱에 채다 신내 톱에 채서도 열어. 다 신내 톱에 채다 그렇게 하셔도 지도한테 다 언제금 여대 열 되시나 조조 미국발 그게 셈 샤버도지. 미국발에 몇 소분은 이거 오라. 뒤톱지게 있네 신경써야 되게 그게 루진 레rum지 샤 열어. 근데 그게 고무로 가득 잡는 이만이가 그러나 일강반나야 되고 내가 나야 되고 맹게 셈나게 되게강에 맹게 레rum지 열어. 어디 톱서는 이 당고 신인 좀 세대래서 저 뒤톱산에 신을 하고 딱 본거 그랬어.
What Geshe is explaining about on the serenity is it doesn't matter what kind of object you are meditating. Once you stay into that object of meditation for a longer period of time, so after staying into that object of meditation for a longer period of time, then slowly that you are going to find some kind of calmness or peace, like I said, like you are dissolving into that object of meditation, like your mind or your concentration with the object is like it's like kind of becoming one, like you're dissolving into that. So the moment that you have that experience, then you'll feel some kind of calmness or peace or some kind of like you won't get tired. Is it that you want to go more deeper into that meditation? So like you may sit for 1 hour, 10 hours, like you still feel like that you want to stay into that meditation. So that is like it's a like kind of like label that you are achieving that serenity there. So once you have that strength of dissolving into the object of meditation, then you have to change that object of meditation. Then it's called the insight. Then you may be using the different meditation. So that's how it's called serenity. Okay. No question. Okay, before I do the prayers, that the seda kashi je tu ke ko danda dorengi ngoshe bachi do ode am the sani shaju jere sha odi gi chi melachi ten la mensong chi rogi. So and then I have couple of announcements, like first the latter, which is the incarnation enthronement, that whoever want to go to India, please contact Kim. And then, and regarding the retreat of Yamantaka Solitary Yamantaka retreat, start from August 1st. I think the Carlos might have a flyer. Do we have flyers? I need to as soon as I can, so that. But we will start from the August 11th, and probably it will be like less than 3 weeks. I think, maybe 2.5 weeks probably. So if you want to go for retreat, then let me know so that we can register. And then, like, here's one, the prayers to do. There's one, the Christine Maureen Torres, right? So she has a heart surgery. Is it heart surgery? Tomorrow. So it's a very typical situation. So we want to do meditation, a medicine mantra on medicine Buddha, and then send the prayers to her and her whole family. Then followed by that we do the dedication prayers. tuji kinla nyembe chomden de tenzan tebe ngendre dungye se sanje menge la bendu raye yo la chatse lo teya thom bekaze maha bekaze raza samunga de so teya thom bekaze maha bekaze raza samunga de so ha teya thom bekaze maha bekaze raza samunga de so ha teya thom bekaze maha bekaze raza samunga de so teya thom bekaze maha bekaze raza samunga de so ha teya thom bekaze maha bekaze raza samunga de so teya thom bekaze maha bekaze raza samunga de so ha teya thom bekaze maha bekaze raza samunga de so ha gewa de nyurdo da membe gebo drobjo ne dowa che chamale te sala go boro e sho kange lo de temne tende ni da nam da rap se we jinye dengen jije ziche ni ge to go lebo kanda se be chera mare mendom dunye gese Trotso kien lambo che da ze yang ha do je yang den son tro dra che tro nye mo nye lo le ke cha tro de ze che ma re min se du nge nye gu chi nye che ze rel de nam de ne da che sa che da ze yun den le zo ge se du yi ko chu cha chu dan chu nye gen de da le min se jang pe yang la e de o ma ra ba ze ma ra ba ze ma ra ba ze ma ra ba ze Marabazana di Marabazana di Marabazana di Marabazana di Kada denje shun lo to pa ye lo de po be na wa se do se. Okay, English. English Manjushri was no. Okay, page 21. Okay. Oh, is it? English? Who wills of the hearts of spiritual texts, smells of the seeing all things as they are, whose intelligence shines forth as the sun, unclouded by delusions of trace of ignorance, who teaches us 60 ways with the loving compassion of Father for all only Son, creative caught in the prisons of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering, you whose dragon thunder with a proclaiming of Dharma arouses us from the stupor of our delusions and free us the iron chain of our karma, who feels the words of wisdom's sufferings whenever its words appears, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You have been pure from the beginning, who have completed the stages of achieving highest perfections of Buddhism, whose princely body is adorned with the 112 marks of Buddha. I bow down to you, Manjushri. Om Arapasanadi, O compassionate one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom so that I may gain insight into Buddha's words and texts that explain them. Wishing beings and non-beings, Fame prevails all directions. You are proficient and powerful, and upholding the first doctrine. To you, O Lord Tenzin Wanda, respectfully I pray.
Hết tâm kính lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, bậc đại trí ngài điều phục hai chướng ngại, tượng nhật quan lan tỏa khắp mười phương, bậc thực chứng chân nghĩa màu rốt ráo, từ tim ngài Bát Nhã Kinh thủ hộ nhiệm màu, cõi luân hồi chúng sanh thọ nghiệp báo, bị ngăn che bởi phiền não vô minh, sở hữu 60 pháp âm thù thắng, cùng đại bi ngài hóa độ chúng sanh, tựa từ mẫu chăm lo cho quý tử. Tiếng rồng vang ngài thức tỉnh hữu tình, thoát khỏi vòng luân hồi nghiệp báo. Gươm trí tuệ ngài chặt đứt vô minh, tận diệt muôn vàn khổ đau cùng ách nạn. Trường tử Như Lai tối thắng toàn giác, ngài an trụ nơi thập địa pháp vân, báu thân ngài trang nghiêm thanh tịnh, 112 tướng hảo Như Lai. Đây đầu đảnh lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, cúi xin ngài tận diệt ám chướng vô minh. Om Arapasanadi. con khẩn cầu dưới gót sen bậc đại trí, ban phước lực diệt phiền não vô minh, được trí sáng con thâm nhập nghĩa màu. Như diệu hương ngọt ngào từ sen trắng, đàn xanh nơi trí tuệ thắng đại dương, hàng thiện căn như ong mật thọ nương, hồng danh Ngài khắp mười phương quảng bá, đấng thiện xảo uy dũng bảo tồn pháp bảo vô giá. Nam mô Lốp Sang Tenzin Quang Đắc. Xin cung kính trì niệm.
Gewa de ye nyoro yando yanda la ma sa je do joro ne wa je cha ma le bon ne ye sa la ge sho jan jo sem jo rembo che ma ge pa nam ge jro che ge wa nyam ba me ba ya gone gondo be war sho to ni ta wa rembo che ma ge pa nam ge jro che Kyawa nyamba me ba yang gone gondo pe war sho sa she be je jun she me to tam re ja lin she nyen de gen ba de san je shin do me de yu wa yu do ge nam da shin la che ba sho gan re ra we kor we shin gan de Pendan de wa ma le jun be ne ai che re se wa ten zen ja zo yi sha be se de bar do ten ju ro yi ji ye da em go ro re na men de la ka ne ya ta ya amen.